I've been reflecting on this bird flu situation, and something doesn't feel right. And I was thinking about something that Gert Vanden Bosch had said to me in a recent interview. I hope to be able to interview him again soon. And the thing that he said at the time was so significant that it stuck with me. And I started to think about it again. And in case you're interested, I went back to see what he had said recently. This is Gert Vanden Bosch's Substack. I've put the link in the description below. And he was talking about in previous contributions, he had repeatedly described how human interventions, such as the reckless mass vaccination during the pandemic, could disrupt specific host pathogen ecosystems, leading to unintended consequences effectively. And I have the luxury of talking to people offline and getting their perspective for some of the things they may not necessarily say online. And he had said something that really hit me, which was the fact that he was concerned that humans were putting animals at risk. And in the long run, something has to give because the animal you can't let all the animals die because of humans. And that really stuck with me because I realized just how serious this is. So, when we look at what is going on at the moment, and you can see here, this was just in the news. This is Al Jazeera news. US identifies 65-year-old in Louisiana, first severe case of bird flu, and he was hospitalized after contact with an infected flock of backyard birds. So, yeah, bird flu circulates, and this is something that can happen, but that's not actually the case that is really concerning to me. What is more concerning is what is happening in the context of California. And I'll show you here. This is the news with regards, again, December 18th, 2024. This was the bird flu update, and California declares an emergency. Now, the severe case of human case was in Louisiana, so it wasn't in California. So they took this as an opportunity to make an emergency call. But they did declare a state of emergency, largely because more than 300 dairy herds are testing positive in just the last 30 days in California. This is the bit that I think is really, really concerning. So it's the avian flu, bird flu, is now circulating in cattle and circulating very highly. That's the bit where the unintended consequences come from. And I don't know the answer to this. I'm just reflecting on the implications and thinking about what is the next thing to occur. Now, I, as usual, tie any unusual pattern that we're seeing now to the COVID pandemic. Now, it could be distant from it and it's just coincidental, but there are too many coincidences that seem to be happening. You know, we saw the case initially in about 2022 where we had this childhood hepatitis surge. We didn't know what was the cause of it. We walked away. Then you had the monkeypox surge. Didn't know the cause of it, refused to acknowledge the possibility that it could be linked to our patterns in the pandemic. And now we're seeing this unusual pattern with cattle. So, significant infections across multiple farms in California. And I was just doing a little bit of background research about California. Why California? It does seem that they have a lot of cattle farms, a lot of I guess animals are transported into California for, I guess, exchange and so on in the markets. Plus, critically, they have a very close human to animal interaction because of population density. That's the bit that I think is really important, because when you look at this, I got this from about November 2024, looking at 1 in 5 animals at a zoo tested positive for SARS-CoV-2, perhaps from people. Absolutely. This was in Brazil, and they were finding that the interaction between people and the animals would lead to circulation of alpha omicron found in wolf, deer, gorilla. That's 19% of the animals tested positive for SARS-CoV-2. So, without a shadow of a doubt, the ongoing circulation in highly vaccinated regions is putting animals at risk. Animals are therefore getting recurrent infections of COVID. Now, people keep on thinking COVID is just like another cold. I keep on warning you, this is not like anything we have seen before. It is extremely transmissible. It will impact on the gut, and critically, in the context of infection, it damages the immune system. It decimates certain parts of it: T cells, natural killer cells, certainly B regulatory cells. And so, this is part of the reason why we're also seeing circulation of other viruses and things like mycoplasma. The virus decimates the immune system at a population level. If we therefore have a similar thing occurring in the animals that are interacting with humans, where their immune system is also being damaged by the ongoing circulation of SARS CoV 2 from humans, who are then passing it to animals, the animals are getting sick with SARS CoV 2 and therefore making them vulnerable to things like bird flu, which normally comes through as the migrating birds pass through. That is setting up to be a disaster. That's why I'm worried. And essentially, what I'm saying is that what Gert had said, and it stuck with me after our last interview, he essentially said that potentially we, and I say we in the context of humankind, in highly vaccinated regions with high circulation of ongoing SARS CoV 2, whether or not it causes severe disease, are putting the whole ecosystem at risk, because the animals are getting repeatedly infected and they are having increased vulnerability going forward. This will mean that they will have increased risk of other viruses that they are naturally coming across but cannot mount effective challenges against it. And those viruses can then put the humankind at risk, because then there may be the transmission across from animal to humans. There is a big push in the background about vaccines to try and stop these kinds of things. I still maintain that if you're not talking about mucosal vaccines, you're going to run into trouble. Mucosal vaccines that stimulate the mucosal immune system to try and prevent the viruses from breaking into systemic circulation. Um, I don't know what to say other than the fact that I sense that this is building and this is not going to stop. And as we run into the winter period, we are likely to see some very unusual and unpredictable patterns. As in the long run, if we continue to try and kill the animals because we have circulated SARS CoV 2 and therefore made them more vulnerable to other viral infections, as we try to protect ourselves, nature will not allow that to happen. And that's the point that Gert said. Nature will not allow that to happen. Something will have to give, and it will not be the animal kingdom that is decimated because of us. That's why I'm worried, because fundamentally, I sense that we're at a tipping point. And the tipping point is unlikely to be that the animal kingdom is wiped out because of us. I don't know what else to say, but it has been bugging me and I've been thinking about it. It's part of the reason why I've written this book, Disease X. Are you prepared? Because I think we need to be prepared. in terms of understanding how viruses work, especially SARS-CoV-2, and how to protect against it. So please, if you're interested, get the Kindle or the paperback version and join us in being prepared. This is about risk mitigation. Some people say this is scaremongering. That's fine. But if you don't anticipate the possibilities in the same way that they had pandemic preparedness in terms of trying to predict viruses and so on, this is a scenario that doesn't look as though it can go away. As the population continues to infect animals, animals are vulnerable. Animals get infected with other viruses and then increase the possibility of animal to human transfer. We are in difficult times. Let's hope that everything is okay, but please remember, try and be prepared. Thank you.